Stalingrad was not decided only by tanks, artillery, or grand maneuvers drawn on maps. In the frozen ruins of the city, entire battles were shaped by moments so small they were almost invisible. An officer stepping forward through the snow, a gloved hand beginning to rise, an order forming in his throat, and then a single shot. The command was never spoken. The charge never happened. Men who would have died seconds later stayed alive. At Stalingrad, one bullet could stop an attack, halt an execution, or collapse an entire chain of command. It was a place where history did not always change in explosions, but in silence, broken only by the crack of a rifle and the sound of a body hitting frozen ground. By the winter of 1942, Stalingrad had become a city stripped down to raw survival. Buildings were no longer shelters, but broken skeletons of brick and steel. Streets were buried under rubble, snow, and bodies that no one had time to bury. Smoke hung low in the air, mixing with fog and ash, making distance hard to judge and movement deadly. Tanks were trapped or destroyed, large formations shattered into isolated groups, fighting room to room, floor to floor. This environment rewarded patience above all else. A soldier who rushed died quickly. A soldier who waited sometimes lived. For snipers, Stalingrad was the perfect battlefield. Upper floors, shattered windows, factory ruins, church towers, collapsed staircases, every elevation offered control. A single marksman could dominate an entire street, a courtyard, or a crossing simply by remaining unseen and unmoving. German officers continued to lead from the front, as they had been trained to do. They stepped into open ground to direct men with hand signals and shouted orders. In open fields, this had worked. In the ruins of Stalingrad, it became fatal. Snipers learned the rhythm of command. They watched for the moment an officer stopped moving, when confidence replaced caution. A raised arm, a pause to look back at his men, a breath before the order. The sniper did not rush. He waited until the target was perfectly still. Then the shot came. The officer fell forward or backward into the snow. The unit froze, suddenly leaderless. No one knew who should give the next order. Attacks stalled. Charges dissolved into confusion. In some sectors, executions were stopped this way. Prisoners lined up in the cold lived because the man holding the pistol never finished what he started. Waiting was the true test of a sniper at Stalingrad. It was not a battle of reflexes, but of endurance. Men lay motionless for hours, sometimes days, wrapped in rags, pressed against broken concrete. The cold crept into bones and joints. Fingers went numb. Frost gathered on eyelashes and rifle barrels. Breathing had to be controlled so carefully that even exhaling too fast could give away a position. Hunger gnawed constantly. Sleep came in seconds at a time, if at all. The sniper learned to ignore discomfort, fear, and doubt. The shot itself lasted less than a second. The discipline required to reach that second lasted far longer. Many never fired at all, spending entire days waiting for a moment that never came. Not every shot fired at Stalingrad was about killing. Some were about stopping death. A machine gun pinning soldiers behind rubble went silent when its operator fell backward without a sound. A charge across open ground never happened because the officer leading it collapsed before he could move his men. Civilians hiding in basements survived another day because an assault was never launched. These moments were small on maps, but enormous for the people trapped inside them. At Stalingrad, survival was measured in minutes. Snipers bought those minutes with patience and precision. Each halted attack meant fewer bodies in the snow. Each silenced position gave someone a chance to crawl away, alive. Fear spread faster than bullets. German soldiers learned to dread open spaces and daylight. Helmets placed on sticks were shot almost instantly, proving that someone was always watching. Officers avoided windows. Orders were whispered or passed by hand signals, slowing everything. Crossing a street became an act of courage bordering on desperation. Men hugged walls, sprinted in short bursts, and froze at the slightest sound. This fear drained momentum from the offensive. It exhausted morale. Soldiers were no longer afraid of Soviet numbers or weapons. They were afraid of silence. Silence meant eyes on them. Silence meant a rifle aimed and waiting. Individually, a sniper's shot affected a single street, a single moment, a single life. Together, those shots reshaped the Battle of Stalingrad. Attacks slowed, command structures fractured. Time was stolen from an advancing army that could not afford to lose it. As German forces bled and stalled in the ruins, Soviet resistance hardened. What began as desperate defense became calculated endurance, and then counterattack. The city did not fall. The German army did. And before surrender was signed, before maps were redrawn, history shifted quietly through shattered windows, frozen rooftops, and men who waited long enough to change everything with one shot. Subscribe to Warscope Stories for more true stories from history's most dangerous moments.